All right, hitting the button.
Welcome to the first Focal Plane podcast with my dad and Uspsa and Chris. Enjoy your show.
There we go.
With my dad and Wooster, and who's this guy?
Captain Mustache.
No,
Captain
Chris.
Mustache. I haven't had that before. That's a new one.
That's probably what he'd call you.
When I shaved, my wife said I look like a retired RCMP officer.
Yeah.
Yeah, no bullshit. She didn't talk to me for a month. Like we were walking by each other in the hallway like gunslingers, and like she's looking away. She didn't know I had chins, like that. It's surprising. Like, where do they all come from?
Well,
They're
that's
everywhere.
what spurred the keto thing, eh? That's where that came from.
Yeah. The keto doesn't help the chins, man. They actually get bigger.
no,
You didn't
they
know
stay.
that. Yeah, they double up, and you get skinnier, but that all goes to your chin, right? So yeah. So
Well, it is winter. Maybe maybe Mother Nature's putting a pouch on you there for some nuts or something.
Yeah, protecting the old throat muscle, just in case.
Oh, shit. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 69 of the first Focal Plane podcast. Don't you dare make a fucking joke, Sean.
We're talking about mustache porn stashes.
It already came up.
Oh, shit. Where's
It came
the
up on my
casting couch
Facebook
here?
page. Yeah, it came up on my Facebook page. It's not a coincidence that you had me on when it was episode 69.
All right.
This is going to be a fun episode.
Okay, everybody. Moving on here. Let's talk about EM Precision. If you want to get a rifle built on a Curtis Custom Action or pretty much any other action, give it to them. They'll spin on an international barrel and or an MDT chassis. What else do they handle, Sean? I guess they handle Stiller, Trigger Tech, Macmillan.
Yep.
Yeah. Call them up. Shane will take your order. Steve will build it. You wouldn't be happier, I don't think. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and their website at emprifles.ca.
You know what goes good with a good long gun? Some
What's
coffee.
Yes. Indeed.
Some Bolt Action Coffee. Canadian veteran-owned and operated business. Bolt Action Coffee team is passionate about long-range precision shooting in the pursuit of the world's best coffee. All the beans they procure and roast, especially coffee. Well, what's specialty coffee, Kurt? Well, let me tell you.
I'm glad I could help you with that.
That's right. It makes up 2% of the coffee in the world in any given harvest, which is 85 or higher on the specialty coffee score. If you like coffee, Bolt Action, higher caliber coffee experience. Check them out at boltactioncoffee.com to order online, or look for local retail stores, including Extreme Range Outfitters in Saskatoon. At checkout, if you're ordering online, use code FIRSTFOCALPLANE, all caps, for 10% off your order. Doing so directly supports the show. So, yeah.
Directly. Absolutely.
Directly.
Yes,
Yep.
we feel it. Right in the feels.
Right in Kurt's feeling.
Right in my MDT. All right. Also to go with that coffee, we've got call sign 66. They're a veterans-based organization founded to facilitate multi-generational, I hate that word,
Way to go.
passage of information, ballistics application, R&D, and shooter development. The omnidirectional passage of information is key to the community's success and growth, as our organizational philosophy is such that we all have something to offer. Welcome to the Brotherhood. For more info, go to www.callsign66.ca.
You bet. There, we paid some bills.
I wasn't bullshitting you guys.
Oh, she brought you some Maker's
She
Mark.
brought it to me, yeah. There we
Sarah,
go.
you got to up your
All
game
right.
here.
Thank you. I love you. I'm the Red Bull. All right.
I'm the Red Bull. Cheers, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Well, there you go. So let's get into it here. So who the hell are you, Cory?
Well, my name's Cory, as you say, and most folks call me Tuna. Like, I'm very well known as Tuna in the industry and in the shooting sports and other sports as well. obviously at my day job, most people don't know me as Tuna, but if I see anybody outside that scope, like that's the name that I get most times. So I shoot IPSC and action pistol, and that's primarily what I do right now. Like that's the basis of it all. Yeah, like I'm a dad, I'm an outdoorsman, and all that jazz, and we could talk about all that till we're blue in the face. But the idea of it all is that it all revolves around the action pistol sports, and that's pretty much the direction that our life has gone. Our family, myself, not just myself, but like my whole family, and the way my kids are raised, and the mentality behind it all, and their bias as individuals, and that's where we're at. So
nice.
shooting handguns, really shooting handguns,
Nice.
drinking whiskey. How's that? Yeah,
Rocking killer stashes.
yeah. It's November, right? I have it all year
Right.
round. I should. That's a lot. Yeah.
The only thing that would round that out is if you knew how to rip on a banjo.
I didn't want to play it, but like, yeah, you
Pulls
know
it
what?
out of
And
the sleeve of his shirt.
Yeah.
to
I'm not
elaborate
prepared.
on that, there's a point to be made about what you just said, though, too, because we could talk about it in more detail, but there's an idea behind the shooting sports and people that play musical instruments and that sort of thing. Like all of those tie together with the ability to practice at long durations and put in the time it takes to be able to develop a skill, whether
That's
it be
true.
when you're a kid growing up and you play guitar for hours a day, you sit in your room and you learn how to play guitar. And by the time you're 20, 25, 30, you're good at guitar, but you spent all that time in your youth or all that time just trying to grind away and pick up the fundamentals and learn how to play that instrument. And shooting a pistol isn't any different. I was able to pick up a rifle as an adult and just shoot it. No bullshit. But I picked up a pistol as an adult and couldn't hit a fucking thing. There's not a damn thing. So I had, you have to buckle down and you have to work at the fundamentals. And, I played guitar growing up. I played in bands and all that jazz. And when I was a teenager, I spent all that time plunking away on the guitar. And it's just a willingness to practice. And you need to do that if you want to succeed in the shooting sports. That's for sure. Like you have to be able to get in the grind. Yeah.
And
You know what? I found that.
Sorry, Kurt. All your stories, Court or Tuna, all your Instagram stories for years was you with your dry firing in your bedroom, pointing at pictures, and that was it for like months on end. It was just you dry firing, and then you going to the range, and then coming back home and dry firing. Like it was unreal the amount of time you would document to put on.
You know what? And you're spot on. But a lot of that's the off season too. You got to remember that. So like right now, I took a couple weeks off of training and competition and come back to it fresh and a few less calluses maybe. But in the off season, especially here in Canada, we're dry firing a lot. Like you have to. If you don't, you're never going to be very good. You're never actually going to be that good. Like there's guys that maybe put the time in. Like maybe you've been doing it for 20 years and you've put all that time in already and you've exercised all that discipline already. And then you don't dry fire. You come out, you win a match, or you do well and you kick ass and everyone knows you're a badass. But the guys that are up and coming, like if you haven't been in the sport that long and you're not dry firing all the time, then you're not going to be very good.
No, exactly.
Or you're going to struggle. You're probably going to struggle anyways.
Or you might be good at your local matches, but if you go to a level 3 or nationals or anything, you're going to be a big fish or a small fish in a big pond comparative to a big fish in a small pond.
Well, I think most of us are, because I've been to those matches. I haven't been to a world level match yet, but I just came back from a USPSA nationals, and those guys in the top 5, like there's a bunch of us that can play around in the top 20, anyone from 5 up to 20. Like we all are in a running to possibly get in the top 10 and mess around with each other. But those guys in the top 5, they're pushing on a different plane. Like they're on a slightly different level than everybody else. And it's a small difference when you get up there. Like the percentages are harder to achieve. It's all incremental, but like they're on a different plane. There's no bullshit about
for
it.
sure.
It's like hand loading and trying to get that extra 100 feet per second when you're topped out already on powder.
Yeah,
it's just
do you guys
grain
watch
and a
hockey at
half
all?
only gets you 30 feet per
You
second.
watch hockey,
yeah.
so like
Yeah.
I had this conversation already. Like the Connor McDavid's versus being in the NHL.
Yeah.
Like some of them are just on a different plane, but you're all playing in the same sport. You're all at the same level, per se. But there's always a guy or a few guys or a handful
There's
of guys.
a standout there.
They're outliers, right?
That
so
anomaly.
But like you say, if you're going to go to a major match, you're really going to be able to identify that. So like in Canadians going to a U.S. match, it's not, you're not always going to see them stand out. Most of the time, they're going to do shitty. To be honest, we can elaborate on that later. But
let's unpack that now. What do you mean? Like, how are Canadians going to majority of the time? How do they do shitty down there?
It's not how. It's just that they do, right? Typically, the level of performance is higher out of the American group. They have more time to spend on it. They've been doing it longer. The game is slightly different down there, so obviously you go down there, it's a different game. You're traveling, and that adds to it. But I think for the most part, as a sport, they put more into it than the average Canadian pistol shooter. Like the average Canadian pistol shooter doesn't really put a whole lot into it. But down there, even the mediocre, the middle classmen going up into the higher classes, let alone the Christian Silers of the world, like those people are putting time in, and they're practicing every day, and they're at the range multiple times a week, and they're putting, tens of thousands of rounds down range a year. Whereas the average Canadian shooter, they're not doing that. So when I go to a match, I'm just going to compete against the same 10 guys or same 5 guys. Well, really, the spectrum is in Alberta. You go and you compete against 3 people. Me and 2 other guys, me and 3 other guys max, right? And then on a national level, you go and you compete against 10 other guys. And then on a North American level, you go and compete against 20 guys. Do you know what I mean? World level, so on, right? Yeah. But really, the rest of the people at the match, like, no offense, like that's why they have it broken up into categories and classifications, so that you can compete against your peers. So that when I go to a match, I'm going to compete against my peers. And if the membership level is as such, then my peers, there's only 2 of them. Well, then those are the guys I'm there to beat. Right. Yeah. So, and the same thing goes on a national level and on an international level as well. Like, so you look at the Christian Silers of the world, the Eric Graffels and Jorge Ballesteros and all those guys.
Ben Stoger.
Ben Stoger, yeah. Like, those guys are all just competing against each other. Everyone else is just at the match. They're doing their own thing. They're competing for master class and A class and B class and C class and all that stuff. They're trying to get their super senior awards and stuff like that. And it's fully legitimate that way. But we have to be able to step back as looking at it as a sport and be like, wow, these people are a step above the rest. You know what I mean? So going down there as a Canadian, most people are just underprepared. You know what I mean? They're not prepared for such a big match, even. Just the presentation of it all. It's the big show, right? And all those shooters are there. All those good guys that we're naming off, we're dropping names, Christian, JJ, and all those guys. Those guys are there. You know what I mean? So most people are like, holy shit, like I'm out of my league, right? And I think the idea is you go there and you shoot your game, and if you practice enough and you have the right skills to do it, then you're going to do okay. That's
right. So like you were just down there shooting USPSA. What match was that?
So they call that USPSA Race Gun Nationals. So that's the US Nationals. Yeah.
And is that an area nationals or I guess nationals is the whole thing?
Nationals. Right? That's their big match. That's the big show for them. Yeah.
So what were some of the names you competed against down there?
Well, like I fell into the top 20, so you're looking at some of the real hot shots, like obviously Christian Seiler is in a different league, JJ Racaza, Casey Eusebio, Chris Tilley. But like the guys that I was battling with, Eddie Garcia, who's just an absolute living legend from EMG Customs. You've got like Aaron Edens, like those types of guys, Mike Huang, like all those guys are falling in that top 20 to top 10 range. And they're all studs. Like Aaron Edens is from the AMU, and if you're going against these guys who are getting paid, this is their job, they're industry people, or they do this for a living. Like I have a secondary job. Like obviously, I have a life. I live in a different country, and go there and be able to throw down with those guys. It's unexpected, I think, for most people. But we had the expectation to get in the top 20 when I went down there. So.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
you don't want to be think you're cool or anything, but you don't want to be ignorant. You have to go down there knowing like where do you stand? You know what I mean? Where do I stand? I go down there and I'm gonna give it my all. You know what I mean? So you don't want to be ignorant about it.
No. Well, and you're not going to show there like all puffed up like you're the big swinging dick
no,
at the
fuck
gym,
no.
right?
I completely trashed my first stage, like just fucking bombed it. And none of there's a couple guys on my squad that may have knew who I was just from the fucking internet, like from Instagram. But otherwise, I blew the first stage so bad that nobody gave a shit who I was after that anyways. Like, nobody fucking cared.
Well,
it was awful.
In a match like that, you're shooting 10 to 20 stages sometimes.
18 it was, but yes.
18, there you go.
Yeah.
So but then you blow one stage. That's like you're out of the top 5. at that point?
You know what? You'd be surprised on how, because they have high round count stages, and because there is quite a few of them, it is more
You
of
can make it
a.
up a little bit.
People call it a marathon, right? So when you go to a big match like that, like so in Alberta, we shoot a lot of like six stage matches where if you don't have stage wins against those other 2 or 3 guys that you're fighting against, you're not going to win the match. Like you're just fucking not. You might get second on a couple of them, but on a big match, like say a nationals level match or a provincial level match where you're going to shoot 14 to 18 or 20 stages, well, you know, you might be in a situation where you could take second on them all. You could have 85% on them all, and you might even win the match. You know, because of people like me who bombed one stage here and bombed another stage there, right? But that the round count is so high down there, and everybody has these massive fluctuations. Even even a lot of the good guys are having fluctuations. Like say the guy who win, he took 79th on a stage. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. So it brings you up and down, right? But because it is a marathon, you know, sometimes it doesn't affect you as much as you think. Like I actually trashed 3 stages totally, just completely trashed them. And it wasn't that I did bad things or did silly stuff or had a train wreck. I shot 2 mics on the same stage, and that really hurts your hit factor. Like that really hurts your scoring. 2 mics on the same stage. Had I spread those mics across the match as opposed to 2 on each individual stage there, it wouldn't have been even as bad. But looking back, like I don't know if you guys have ever used the practice score app. Like you can adjust it and see like this is the what if. How would I have done down there? How would it have been had I not had this?
Just make sure you don't hit the save button after you adjust. Yeah,
and confuse you forever, right? But shit. You know, like I wouldn't have gotten the top 10 at that performance level, anyways. I was right. I'm maybe like 13th, you know, at best.
It's a good goal to set, though. Like to get there eventually, like. And that kind of leads me to my next question. Like, so you set the goal of hitting the top 20. Okay.
Yeah.
How do you prepare for a match like that? Like, walk us through like the 6 weeks leading up to it.
6 weeks leading up to it. Well, that's interesting because a match like that, you're really looking at the entire year to prepare for something like that.
Exactly.
And the idea behind it is your preseason is when you're actually going to see the most development. And that's for any shooting sport. Like if you're shooting precision rifle or 3-gun or whatever the fuck it is that preseason that you have, whether that's your off season when you're practicing or coming up into where the season begins, is where you're going to see the most improvement out of your skills, and you're going to make the biggest increases in percentages, right? And then once your season starts and you're competing, like you may not get any better all season long. You may get like incrementally, like little things. You may learn something here. You go to a match and you see this presentation or that swinger or do this that you never got to do before in practice, but it's incremental. The time that you have preseason is when you can make those big jumps. So nutshells, we just really put the time in, dry fire and getting on the range as much as possible. And just trying to make a focus of it. Obviously we do some weight cut. I'm a fat piece of shit, right? So we do weight cut in the off season. And, try and be prepared, because as the season goes on, just with as much shit as we have going on in our lives, I can't do it all at the same time. You can't train, you can't shoot, you can't dry fire, you can't have kids, you can't have a fucking busy job. So you have to pick. And what we found out is that the shooting is it takes precedent over everything. Like you can be skinny, fat, old, doesn't matter. If you shoot better than the next guy, you're probably going to win. So if you can manage some of those other things and then focus on the shooting as much as possible, you're going to be better off. Rooster, I got to know what you're drinking. What are you drinking, buddy?
Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. It's that Irish whiskey.
Jameson?
Jameson, thank you.
Oh, that's my shit, Jameson. Oh man, we'd be hammered right now if you guys got me Jameson.
I've tried that on the show before. It doesn't work well.
A big one for me is just like I'm trying to get after it as much as possible. So we had just come off of Alberta Provincials, and then we came off of, because it's major match season, so we came off of Alberta Provincials. We went to Saskatchewan Provincials 2 weeks later, and then we had about 3.5 weeks off, and then I flew out to Alabama for Uspsa Nationals. So the idea is just to stay active that whole time, live fire as much as possible, and multiple times a week if possible, not just 2, 3, 4 if you can, and dry fire every day. Like the days that you're even live fire and you dry fire, like you live fire in the morning, you dry fire in the afternoon, twice, whatever, be as active as possible so that when when you are behind the gun, you just feel a lot more confident. You feel more comfortable. Yeah. Because when you go down there and all the pressure's on, you just spent a bunch of money or your sponsor's money or whatever it is, and all these people that you don't know are watching, and you draw the gun out of the holster. Like, you want to just, it needs to be subconscious, you know, otherwise you're going to shit the bed.
Well, like, look at your first stage, right? You just traveled all that way, go to Alabama. You're in probably a hotel that isn't your own bed. Then you get there and you see all these big dogs walking around, and you get to your first stage, and you're just like, okay, shooter, are you ready? Stand by, beep, and that adrenaline dump hits, and you're just like, how do you mitigate that? Like, how do you effectively manage that adrenaline flow?
We kind of get used to that, though. Do you know what I mean? Like, you never,
not in a match
it never goes away. So the experience of it is just kind of like, it's going to happen, right?
You just got to learn to embrace it, as best you can, I think.
I've heard other people use that term, like, embrace it, but for me, like, it's pretty strong with me. Like, I know, but like, I know it's going to happen. The more it happens, the more you grow accustomed to it. So, like, embracing it may be a factor, but it's just like, it's like, it's there. So, just be prepared, because here it comes, and then you just go about your day. So the more often it happens, the easier it is to deal with, to be honest, If you get to that point where the buzzer goes off and you draw your gun like you're in practice, and you just get completely disconnected from it all, you're probably either going to do really good or you're going to do really bad, because you're heightening a little bit of your senses and your experience with that adrenaline, with the anxiety that comes with it all. And it happens in any sport. Like, fucking, I know guys that have IBS from it, not just to shooting, but like high level of competitions where, like, they know. Like, I remember even in high school, and then this is funny shit, I used to wrestle and get the shits. You know what I mean? Okay. Tell the internet this. So, like, you have such high anxieties based on the level of competition that you're in, or just the fear of it all, and you fucking got the shits, and you're gonna wear them tiny little outfits, right? It's the same thing. Like, the more it happens to you, or you go on stage in front of a big crowd to play guitar and sing or whatever like that, the more it happens to you, the more accustomed you get to it. And I think that's the important aspect of it. You just get used to the people being there and being under pressure. You know what I mean? And it's not just at the beginning of the match. I think that it comes and goes throughout the match, because you're going to see things like a target presentation or something like that has you worried. Like, oh, this target has me worried. And you start thinking about all these other aspects. And even during the stage, when you're running the stage, you start feeling the anxiety, because you're like, oh, I'm coming up to that target, right? You need to be able to disconnect from that stuff and focus on the fundamentals and shit like that.
You know what? I think you gotta be able to, like I said before, embrace that. Use a lot of that to your advantage. I know back, oh my God, this is a long time ago now, but pitching at a high level with fastball. I've come up against, or I had at the time, come up against some of the world's best hitters. And there's that anxiety that it's just like that target, that son of a bitch that everybody's struggling with. This batter that nobody's striking out, and he's stepping up to the fucking plate. Well, you just use that shit to your advantage if you can. You brush a few past his chin, and then you fire a couple down at his knees, sort of thing. But different approach. You use that. Not necessarily the anxiety, but the adrenaline from facing that mountain that's in front of you.
The demon,
demon, exactly right. Yeah, and you just go, fuck you, and get at it.
One thing that has got me more on that respect has been individuals. So, like, when you're down there and you're a nobody, you know what I mean? Nobody knows who you are. Like I said, they might know you from Instagram or something, be like, hey, Tuna, yeah, fuck yeah, right? But they don't know you. They're not thinking like, oh, you're here to win the match. Like, I know
Did you bring your Tonka toys?
I know a couple people came up to me and were like, holy shit, like, I didn't know you were coming. This is going to be cool that you're here, right? And I guess I kind of proved that a little bit. You show up and you legitimize yourself in the sport on a North American level, on an international
shove it up
level.
Somebody's ass.
They're like, holy shit, the Canadian can actually shoot. We thought his videos were fake, right? Yeah. But like the idea behind it is, it's like there's more pressure, I think, locally for me to win against these guys that I'm competing against all the time than there is on that big show, on the big stage. Because I'm there, I'm just going to do my best. And if I fall in the top 20 like I wanted, or the top 10 like we were what our fingers were crossed for, then great. You know what I mean? But here, there's this expectation that you're going to win. Like, you have to win.
The target's on your back, right?
Yeah, it totally is. And it always is. Even when you're losing, it is. You know what I mean? Even when you're losing, if you're one of those guys, somebody's always out trying to get you. Whether that's the third place guy or the second place guy, somebody wants you, right? So that's pretty standard.
So how many rounds of live fire do you think you go through during your prep period?
Like just going in like in a year? Let's say a year. I really ramp it up. So we do around like, I would think like 2,000 a month ish or more as you go. But I think in October, like before I went, I probably shot 4,000 rounds in October, like in the 3 weeks between Saskatchewan provincials and USPSA nationals, maybe a little less. I just go more in a practice. I just shoot more at practice. Like I add in a practice or two, but I go from like shooting like 200 rounds of practice or 300 rounds of practice, like 4 or 5 or something like that. You know what I mean? So, but generally I practice every weekend, Saturday, Sunday, live fire, and then like dry fire shit, 5-6 days a week. And if I can, like like I said earlier, on a Saturday, if I live fire on a Saturday morning, and that's an interesting topic for me too. If I live fire on a Saturday morning, I'll dry fire Saturday afternoon as well if I can. You know what I mean? So same on Sunday, and then as many days during the week as you possibly can. So, but I got kids and wife and all that shit.
I was just gonna say that. How do you balance all this shooting and dry firing with
get them involved?
Your duties. Yeah.
You just have to buckle down and do it. It's not about balance. It's about fitting it all in. It's about sacrifice.
That's truth. Truth bomb right there.
100%. So, and I have
Sweetie, you got the dishes tonight. I'm dry firing.
Yeah, she's a stud. She's a fucking champion. Like, there's no bullshit about it. And I'd like to talk more about her later if we can, because
by all means.
I know it's a topic that everybody's interested in when it comes to the wife or your significant other. But she's a champ. She knows what's up. It's like I get home from work and I'm going to go 20 or 30 minutes in dry fire. And as the season goes on, that might be an hour. You know what I mean? It might be 40 minutes, depending on how your hands manage and your eyes manage the practice. You know what I mean? So, but it's different. Side note, like my kids are desensitized towards our lifestyle, not just the pistol shooting, but like the hunting and all that shit. They think that other people are like that. Like they think it's common. So it's kind of interesting from our perspective, outside of pistol shooting, because like we're shooting across a fucking lake in the dark, in our duck boat, in the fucking dark, moon above us, can't see a goddamn thing, right? And my kids are in the boat with me thinking that other kids are doing that too at the same time. And that is not fucking happening.
This is normal.
That is not, So they'll go to a friend's house and they'll be like, how come your dad's not pointing a gun at the wall right now? Like, what's going on? When does your dad start to dry fire? And they're like, what is that? Like,
dude, your dad's a lump.
Yeah, they don't know. And we say that too. Like, what their dads are doing? Their dads are sitting on the fucking couch watching TV right now. But the idea is that most families aren't doing that. You know what? Most families is an understatement too. Families aren't doing that. People aren't doing that. It's abnormal in our country to do that. And back to full circle back to the U.S., it's normal down there. They have 30,000 active members in USPSA, and I bet you 50% of those people dry fire half the time. Like.
So deeply entrenched in their it's a culture, really.
Yeah,
I think
Filipinos
in so many circles.
Oh yeah,
God, yes.
Filipinos too, like their culture down there, in Canada, in the U.S., internationally, and in their own country. It's a deep seated sport for them. But the balance, it's not there. There is no balance. There's absolutely no balance. You know what I do is I try and do extra before they get up and after they go to bed. So I get up on a Saturday morning and I get up before the sun comes up. I'm old as fuck, so I stretch for an hour or half an hour. I go to the range and shoot at first light so that I can have first pick at the range and I can shoot by myself with no other members. I come home and they're just waking up. Like, that's the start of it. That's the start. And if you're trying to do that with the family awake and active and they need to go to their sports, or they have, you got to make breakfast and all that sort of shit, you're never going to fit it in. You have to sacrifice and do extra. So then there you are at 9:30 at night, dry firing after you put the kids to bed. You know what I mean? When most people are sitting on the couch watching TV, you're in the bedroom pointing your fucking pistol at a wall, you know? So it's just a different lifestyle altogether. And my family's super used to it at this point. Like, it's only been a few years, but they caught on really quick that this was going to be the direction we were going. You know, like, I used to play international sports previous to this. Like, I played paintball for a good decade at a pretty high level. Like, I finished my career playing pro in the MPPL. When I took a big break and got extra fat, and I was like off for about 5 years, and I started all this jazz, 3-gun and pistol shooting and all that shit. And once I started getting good, like, I told my wife right from the get-go, like I said, you know what, I'm happy just shooting against these local guys and having fun, right? And then I started winning, and then eventually she was like, you're not going to start traveling to the U.S. to shoot matches, are you? And I was like, no, I'm having a good time. And it was like the end of that year. I was just like, baby, I think I want to go to a nationals. And she was like,
right.
I fucking saw that coming, right? So she knew it right away that I would take it to the next level regardless, right? So
yeah.
Well, do you have that type of personality where you don't half-ass things? You just, if you find something you like, you just give her, or what?
I guess, yeah. Like, even my career, I've been doing the exact same thing for 21 years. And I've, been incrementally moving up the ladder, that sort of thing. But to have that focus, there's not a lot of people that have that amount of experience in the same area of an industry without, like, bouncing around. Like, we have a joke in my industry regarding me. It's just like, what did you do before this? You know what I mean? Like, oh, this guy was a masonry, like a bricklayer, drywaller. This chick used to paint walls and shit.
Is that a shot at Cliff Kabelski?
Like, what did you do before this? Well,
Yeah.
Exactly, right? Like, well, what did I do before this? I didn't. I did this. I've always done this. This is what I do, right? So, like, yeah, I invest my time and I give it my all, kind of thing, I guess. And I like being good at stuff. I think that's the reality of it. It's you find things that you enjoy, but I think more than anything, I just like being good at something. You know what I mean? It could be anything. Like, I'm super competitive in general, but if I find something that I'm good at, I really stick with it, because I think internally, deep down inside, I just like being good at something because it makes me feel better about myself. My wife knows that. She gets it.
So
She
what if you
understands that.
weren't skilled as you were?
Who fucking knows,
you
man?
put the
I don't
time in,
know.
but, like, let's say you stuck with the local matches and you just kept going that way. Where do you think your life would be now?
Like, if I didn't turn out half decent at the game,
Yeah, if you were,
I don't know if that's a thing, because I put in so much effort. Like, I don't think if I didn't practice as much as I did, I'm the type of guy, like, we have a couple guys that shoot, like, we were talking about those 2 or 3 guys, you know what I mean? Like, both of those guys that I battle with on an Alberta level, like Matt Porth and Jeff Chang, those 2 guys,
Yeah.
like, let's drop some names. Both of those guys can just, right now, could get up off the couch and go and win a match.
Yeah,
I can't do that. I am not
Maddie's
that guy.
a stud. Yeah,
They're absolute fucking badasses, and they both have the ability to just show up and throw down. I'm not that guy. That is not me. I will have to. If I didn't practice, I would be shit. I would be trash. I would not be competitive in the sport. I guarantee it. I can tell you that. Maybe 15 years from now, maybe 10 years from now, I will have put in enough time that I can just show up and win. But right now, if I don't practice, if I'm not putting in maximum effort, I am not competitive. So,
shooting's a depreciable skill. Depreciable.
It sure is.
Looking for?
That's close enough.
Well, let's use it.
Moving along.
Well, and, like, so in Saskatchewan here, we got a couple big dogs, Cliff Kabelski and then Jeff Barron. I'm just naming 2 names off the top of my head. You show up to a match, they show up, you're like, fuck, there goes my 1 overall. It's like, even though overall doesn't count, right, Tuna? It
depends. It really depends, Sean. It really depends.
Touchy subject, eh?
Well, people look at it like that. They do. I think a lot of people look at it like that, which is, I think that's just an identifier of that you need to work harder. So if you're like, oh shit, Tuna's here and I just lost this match, well, then you need to work harder.
You're done.
Because I used to have that mentality as well. Like, if Matt showed up or if Jeff showed up, then I'm probably going to take second place. And if you're okay with that, great. But if you wanted to win, well, then get off your ass and go out there and do what you need to do to beat those guys. Yeah. Yeah, and Cliff's great. Jeff Barron's a stud. Adam Glatt, those are guys. Yeah. So, like, if we were going to talk about 3-gun in the sport, like, all Adam and Jeff would be at the top of my list for sure. But
well, we'll have to bring Jeff on and have a show about Jeff when Jeff comes on, because this show's about tuna. Anyway, we had a question. Oh, sorry, Kurt. We'll get to you in a second here.
All right.
Spud's been waiting here. Spudman on the YouTube says, Tuna, what kind of pistol do you use?
Oh, so I'm competing primarily in the open division. So essentially, if you don't know a whole lot about IPSC, the open division is like the F1 of it all. It's like if you were to talk about car racing, maybe it would be like those long ass dragsters with the big wheels in the back that throw fire out of when they go. Like,
funny car.
That's the difference, right? So it'd be like the extreme side of it, like the fastest, the most aggressive, all that jazz. And then as you work your way down through the spectrum, you know, you've got like your NASCAR, and then you've got your like dirt track and so on. So open division is essentially like unlimited. So there obviously is limitations of any sport, right? But you have oversized mag well, you've got thumb rests, slide rackers. The gun is primarily going to be compensated, and it's going to have a red dot optic that is generally going to be frame mounted. So all my guns are custom built by Double Tap Sports here behind me. They're my primary sponsor, and Josko Kovic there builds all my guns from just about from scratch. Like a lot of the guns that he builds for clients are built from scratch, and they're 100% Double Tap Sports builds. But mine are all built off of a frame that I had existing or something like that. So, you know, so they can save some money helping me out, and I can save some money to be in the game. And obviously they work, you know what I mean? But if you really want the top of the line, you're gonna get a full build from him from scratch with all brand new parts, and he's gonna fit it all together and build it up, and they're top notch. But yeah, so what I'm running is a 9mm built to accommodate major power factor ammo. So it's high pressure. It's like 9mm plus P, right? So it's like 1,400 feet per second in a 9mm. So it's hot, right?
Ooh,
you don't want to
you
don't want to throw that in your Glock. You know what I mean?
No.
So, yeah. But essentially, it's super hot 9mm ammo, and again, it's a red dot sight that I use, the FTP Alpha 3 sight, and then a compensated
shout out
barrel.
To Phil Reddy.
Yeah, shout out to Phil Reddy. He's a champ. Those Alpha 3s have been awesome all year. Like I've 2 years now, and I have beat the shit out of them. I have only had one issue so far. Yeah. Oh yeah, they've been fantastic. I can't say.
So is it a 2011 platform, or is it? Like,
yeah, so it's a 2011. So essentially, a 2011 is a 1911 pistol that's built to a double stack grip frame.
Okay.
So you can have a higher round capacity than, say, a 1911 pistol. And then there's a few dimensional differences, like the angle of the feed ramp and the barrel and stuff, to make it more efficient and things like that with the smaller caliber rounds. Running a 9mm 1911, they seem to be problematic because they have such a steep feed ramp on the barrel. Yep. So the 2011 meant around the 38 Super Comp 9mm. They run a lot more consistently because of those modifications. But yeah, so it's a 2011 platform. I have 2 of them built essentially identical for the most part. Like if you're going to shoot 30,000 rounds a year and train with them, you're going to break them. It doesn't matter who builds them. Like you're going to break something eventually, right? So I generally have 2 of them built identical so that I can mile one out and have one for matches. And you know, you might break your match gun, you might break your practice gun, but either way, you have 2 that are the same. That if you pick one up, the differences are very minimal from one gun to the next.
Interesting. And what do you use for gear? Oh, sorry, Kurt, you had a question.
No, I'm just kind of wondering because I'm
Kurt's new to the pistol.
I'm a dunce with pistols, but what are you looking at for barrel life, and like how does that affect things if you've got a shot out barrel? Does it happen? You know, like what do you do for barrels? When you're putting 30,000 rounds through in a year, that's got to have some effect. Yeah, like give me the lowdown on barrels. Like, I'm used to precision rifle, right? Like you keep accurate round counts of how many rounds you got through your rifle, because you never know when that thing will shit the bed during a match, depending on what you're shooting and all that kind of stuff. You can judge where you've got to replace that barrel so that you don't completely shit the bed.
So you'll start to notice it because it's the high round counts, right? So you're going to notice it like one round at a time, spread out over where we're going to notice it like over a period of like a couple months. You're going to start to see like, I'm just not getting the accuracy out of this gun, right? But the idea is they get shot out. Like my practice gun barrel probably has, I would think that it probably has a good like 110,000 rounds somewhere in there. The barrel itself, like the slide's been replaced and stuff like that, but the barrel itself, like where the rifling starts on that barrel, there isn't a whole lot of rifling there. To say the least. Like as it's not like squared out edges anymore. Like it's all flattened out and smoothed out, and then it kind of like progresses into those sharp edges of rifling, right? Whereas my match gun barrel, it still looks pristine. Like it only has a few, maybe 10 or 15,000 rounds through it, right? So there's a big difference in that. But to say I just shot my practice gun at USPSA Nationals and I hit all the shots that I needed to hit, for the most part. So if I missed any shots at a match like that, it was because I wasn't pointed at the target, right? So, but the idea is the accuracy expectations of the gun and of your fundamentals fully depends on the target presentation. So the harder the match, the more difficult the target presentation, the more accurate your gun needs to be. And the idea of it is to give you a gist is that like the open division guns are generally going to be the most accurate, and it's not just because of the setup, it's because of the dot, right? It's the dot, it's the light trigger, it's all the things, it's the weight, it's everything put together, right? So you're generally going to have the most accuracy out of that gun, right? On any given day. But the match is set up to accommodate all of the different divisions. So you've got a guy shooting a revolver and a guy shooting a Glock and a guy shooting a single stack 1911, and then you've got a guy shooting a 40 caliber 2011 platform, and all of those guys need to be able to address the same target in a competitive fashion. So taking that into consideration, if the D-class shooter with a Smith & Wesson needs to be able to hit that target, I'm just going to hit it that much easier with the open gun, right? So the level of expectation of accuracy, it may be high, but do you always need to exercise that level of accuracy? It's questionable, right? So
well, and generally open guns have, they're more tightly built. Like they're more the tolerances aren't as sloppy. Especially like Yosco's guns, right? Like they're
yes, tight. And a lot of the open gun builders, they really know how to put them together. Like they're tight, they're accurate, they're fast, all of that jazz. Like my match gun shoots about 1 to 1 1/4 inch at 25 yards, just shooting it without putting it in a ransom rest or anything like that. With good, like my match ammo is 0 bullets, so it's high quality FMJ bullets, right? So which makes a difference. 0 bullets, top notch. They get distributed out of Double Tap Sports and Rose Distribution. They did have some issues with their export permit this past year, so we haven't got a whole lot into Double Tap Sports, but I had some left over from last year's sponsorship I was able to put into matches and everything this year. But probably the highest quality pistol bullets you're going to get. You know what I mean? Obviously, they're worth a little bit more, but if you want to hit your shit, then pay the money for it. It's just like anything. If you shoot precision rifle, you know what I mean. Spend the money on it, and if you don't have enough money to spend on it all year round, then use those bullets at matches. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But so the accuracy is there. Like we're shooting a 1 inch group at 25 yards with a pistol.
That's huge.
So fuck yeah, I'll hit anything you want me to. You know what I mean? So so.
Cory, tuna, I'll hit anything you want me to do. 2020.
Episode number 69.
We talked about dry fire a lot, and we have in the past a lot. Do you use a system for dry fire, or you just manually doing your thing? Getting your sight picture and your trigger squeeze and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a lot of systems out there, whether they're laser or whatever, available to a guy for dry fire practice. Do you use any of those?
No, but I think they can be helpful depending on where you're at in your ability level. Like that's the big deal. It's like where are you at in your ability level versus like what are you trying to get out of dry fire? The manipulations is a big one. So being able to go through the manipulations, whether that's like mag changes or draws and all that sort of stuff, that's the basics of it. But I think there's a lot of underlying stuff that people overlook when we're talking about it. We're talking about getting the proper grip on the pistol and being able to maintain that grip on the pistol during dry fire versus when you're in live fire. Because what you find is even in my classes, you see a big difference between what a person thinks they should do gripping the pistol because of their dry fire, and then what they're doing in live fire. So what I try and do is I'm really trying to simulate. I'm not necessarily going, it's a reverse order for me. I'm going to take what I know from dry fire or from live fire, and I'm going to use that in dry fire. So I know how to grip the pistol because of live fire. And then when I dry fire, I grip the pistol like that.
Right.
As opposed to the opposite, which a lot of people do. So they grip the pistol in their bedroom, and then they go to the range and they shoot the gun. So I go to the range and I shoot the gun, and I figure out what I have to do to get the gun tracking up and down, to grip the gun properly so I can manage recoil, whether that's body positioning, whether it's my grip, all of that jazz. And then when I go to dry fire, I do those things. And I focus on those things and those fundamentals.
Yeah.
Right. So getting the proper grip, like if you're going to dry fire for an hour session, your hand should be trashed. Absolutely trashed. Oh, yeah. We go to a match, you travel to a match, you drive 14 hours, you go to a match, and you compete for like, 120 seconds.
Yeah.
Right? And then you're going to do 40 minutes of fucking dry fire, right? That's a huge difference. That's absolute, like, it's insane. Like, you just did 500 stages in 40 minutes, It's just this massive difference. So if your hands and your forearms and your eyes and your brain aren't fried after a 40-minute dry fire session, you're not doing it right. You're not focusing enough. You're not gripping the gun hard enough. It's just all of these things are compounding, right? So as you're extending the time and you're not feeling the pressure from it, then you're not doing it. You're not putting in the adequate effort, It's the same as if you're doing some sort of movement drill. Like if you're not putting absolutely everything into the movement drill, then you're not actually doing what you would do in competition, right? So, you go to practice and I am have a way higher risk of injuring myself in a practice than I do at a match. Because I'm only going to do that once. Where in practice, I'm going to do that 30, 40 times. Yep. Exactly. And I'm going to tear a hamstring or my groin or whatever it might be. Where in a match, I just have to do that thing one time. You know what I mean? Just one time.
Yeah. So, when you're practicing, you're not just practicing the stuff you're good at. You've identified where you need work, and you're going to challenge yourself during that practice, right?
Yeah. So Rooster's question, the big one that I like to focus on is understanding what I'm looking at. So whether that be target depth, like a focal depth change. So from a close target to a far target, transition your eyes back and forth from target to target and working on those types of sequences. So in dry fire, I'm really focusing on gripping the gun properly, pressing the trigger sweetly without interrupting the visual of the gun, right? Whether that's iron sights or your dot, right? Without putting excess negative input into the gun. And I'm really working on nailing transitions from one target to the next and having focal depth change quickly. So trying not to just point it at one target on the wall and click and bang, bang, right? Yep. The other one is the mental aspect. So, and I teach this in my classes, and a lot of people have a different way to communicate it. And we talk about in my classes. It's just it's a trainer bias. It's like this is their hook. This is how they communicate that. So this guy says you should do it like this, and this guy says you should do it like that. But really, they're both doing the same fucking thing. They're just trying to communicate it in a special way so that they can have their own hook to it, right? Their own aspect of it, right?
Yeah, this is my thing.
Right. So a lot of them have like this visual connection to like what you should be seeing to shoot this shot, right? So for me, taking that back to dry fire, saying like I shoot a 10-yard target at this pace. Like I can shoot 2 alphas on a 10-yard target or a 15-yard target or a 20-yard target at this pace. And each one of them's different, right? Each one of them's different. Or maybe if you're a badass, you're going to do them all at the same pace. But as you get even closer to the 10-yard target, the issue is like, well, maybe you should just be shooting that one faster, right? The idea is I'm going to shoot this target at this pace and this target presentation at this pace and this target presentation at this pace. Now, obviously, I'm going to have to see different things. Some of the shooting is going to be predictive. Proactive is another industry word for it. And some of it's going to be reactive, right? And a lot of different trainers are talking about that right now. So in this target, I'm going to grip the gun properly. It's going to track up and down. I'm going to shoot 2 shots. On this target, I'm going to shoot 1 shot. I'm going to adjust the sight picture, and then I'm going to take another shot, right? So there's 2 different styles of doing that. I want to understand in live fire how I approach each one of those targets. And then in dry fire, I'm actually going to do that. And you know what that does? It makes your dry fire so fucking boring because it's realistic. Yep. So most people, they point their gun at the wall. They go click, 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 click. Well, if you have a different target array on the wall, maybe this is a 10-yard target. It goes click, click, and this is a 20-yard target. So now realistically, you're going to go bang, bang.
Yeah.
Right? How boring is
Right.
that? And you go to another 25-yard target, bang, bang. So boring. But
Yeah.
it's so beneficial to you processing all that information
That's
at
right.
speed. So then when you go to a match and you go through your stage walk and you walk up to the target and you go bang, 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 right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then you actually execute at the pace that you were going to shoot it at.
Yep.
Right? That's actually what's going to happen, right? So when I live
You've rehearsed
fire,
that scenario
Yes.
many times already.
Before you even got there. So in dry
Yeah.
fire or in live fire, you're figuring it all out. You're going back to dry fire and you're practicing the fundamentals.
Yeah.
You're working on your transitions. What are your eyes doing? What's your body doing? How can I button this all down? And then when you go to a match situation, you can actually execute at a certain pace, at a specific ability level, instead of giving yourself false hopes. Like you go through too fast or too slow, or you just don't know how to approach it. And I think most of the middle class shooters, that's the problem, is that they just don't know how to approach those moments. And the same thing goes for precision rifle shooting. It goes for shotgun shooting, for skeet shooting, whatever. Like, how fast am I going to mount the gun for this specific target?
Yep.
If you just mount the gun the same every time, you're probably not going to address this target the same as this target, right? It's the same thing. Like getting into position for a precision rifle target shot. Maybe you should rush here and take your time there, and maybe you should take your time here and rush there. And you need to know when to do those things, and practice,
proper positions
execute.
too, like and not just doing the old Heinemann squat at the tripod. Like we saw
we're gonna patent that fucking thing, man.
But that
We're gonna
just
put out
shows
videos.
an experience, right? Whereas like when I I've been out of the game for IPSC for a few years now, but dry firing, there'd be stages where you'd have a VTAC and you got to shoot underneath the VTAC, right, or whatever the case may be, and you're putting yourself in those awkward positions while still shooting and then getting up with the gun. It's a safety thing as well, I think. But and backing up to dry fire, Cory. Sorry about this. There's those companies that make those perspective IPSC targets.
Yes.
That you hang on the wall that are meant for different distances. Like
scale.
You can see them scale exactly, not perspective, scale. So like when you're doing your dry fire, like you're going bang bang. That's like 7 yards, bang bang, 10, 10, 10, and then you got 20, and you kind of really got to line up and hit that. I think those are awesome. But
and I use those, and I think a lot of guys are using those now because they're available. Like Double Tap Sports sells the double alpha ones. You could go to Ben Stoker Pro Shop and get the cardboard ones and all that jazz. But it's not. You can't don't try not to limit yourself. Like you want to be able to have a focal depth change. So I put them on different places throughout the spectrum so that I can have a focal depth change. Like, so I have some on my gun safe, then some on my wall, and then one out further down the hall, and then some on this wall, and some on that wall, so that my eyes are changing the depth. Because especially as we get older, it takes longer for that focal depth change to happen. Like there's drills you can do to accommodate the focal depth change. Yeah, but it takes long. Yeah, right. And going out is the worst, right? Coming in isn't so bad because it's usually the angle is there and you can accommodate it with the type of shooting that you're doing. But as you go farther away, it takes longer for you to focus. It gets harder and harder, and if you stay at it and keep practicing it, it gets better. But yeah, I try the targets for sure.
Yeah, all this talk about techniques and everything, I'm still working on grip. to be 100% honest, like I haven't shot enough pistol to really diagnose what the hell my equipment is doing in my hands when that fucking trigger goes off, right? So then to transfer that back to dry fire to complement the live fire bit, I just don't have enough data, I guess is the best way I can put that.
So that's the biggest focus in my fundamental classes is the grip. And we call it 3 main points. So obviously your grip, your sight tracking, and then your trigger press or pull, whatever the hell you want to call it. We focus on those 3 things. So we fully expect to have some winter clinics that will just focus on just the fundamentals, which we add in some other stuff like draws and reloads and movement and shit like that during the summer when we can. But I think most of people's problem is just the fundamentals alone. Like if you can't hit the shit standing still, then you're not going to hit it moving around. Like you run around and you go up to an array and you're standing still and you're shooting, but everyone just wants to run around with a pistol, right? I don't feel that you're getting anything out of that a lot of times. So based on your skill level anyways. the idea behind the grip was, I think it can alleviate a lot of the problems that you have. Like, I think the trigger press is a very important aspect of it, but like the lowest hanging fruit for almost every shooter out there is their grip, whether you're a master class or grandmaster class or a D class shooter. And we see that all the time in classes. Like, I'll take a grandmaster shooter or a master class shooter in an Alberta class, and we'll adjust their grip, and they'll have they'll have a holy shit moment.
Is that right? I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so it was a big difference for me too. Like, I just kind of identified how to grip the gun better based on leverage and an understanding of the system, and I got better right away.
Well, something that's always fascinated me is watching these guys shooting these matches that you know, they're firing off, I don't know how many rounds in how many seconds, but it's awfully fast. And the little bit that I've shot, trying to get that pistol out, everything out there lined up and everything on target, squeezing off that shot properly so you're not jerking everything and pulling it down, you know, low left sort of thing.
Low left, yeah.
And then getting that second one off in a half a second after that first one. How in the fuck do guys do that? That blows my mind. Especially,
how do you do it, Cory?
Right, considering...
How do you do it?
Right.
The grip and body position is the key to it all, right? So having the gun reset, the gun needs to reset back to the original plane that it was on. So that's the whole point. So when I said it earlier, like, I know we're flashing through it. I don't even think I honestly properly introduced myself at the beginning of this podcast.
Who gives a shit now?
We just went right into it, right? So we talked about like gun tracking or tracking the dot or the front sight. So the big thing is that you have the proper grip on your gun so that when your gun cycles, it goes straight up and down like a sewing machine, right? Yep. So you want your dot to go straight up and down, and you want your front sight to go straight up out of the notch and the rear notch, and then right back down into it. And then after that, you want it to reset on the same plane, right? Yeah. So when it goes up, it comes back to the same spot each time. And as soon as you do that, you can predictively shoot or proactively shoot as fast as you can pull the fucking trigger, right? Obviously, angles are angles, and as you go out to distance, the angle gets bigger, and your margin for error gets larger. You shoot long distance. Yeah, I can tell by the blue rifle in the background, which I know absolutely nothing about.
That was me. Yeah.
But the idea is if you have the proper grip and body positioning so that the gun tracks straight up and down and resets to the original plane, then you can shoot the gun as fast as you can pull the trigger. Now, if you're pushing the trigger and you're pulling the trigger and you're jamming it to the left and jamming it to the right, or pressing down really hard and dipping the muzzle down, well, then that affects everything. So the idea is you press the trigger straight to the rear, which you can talk about for days. You prep the trigger, whatever you want to do it. We discuss it in a bunch of different ways. But the idea is with the proper body positioning and the proper grip, you're going to eliminate a lot of those problems, and the gun will reset and track straight up and down and shoot faster and faster and faster. And then it's a matter of processing the information you're seeing. That's what the end result is. Is you talk about like the double tap, so 2 shots, one sight picture, right? So the idea is like, I know even if I do that, that's a common thing, right? That's called pairs. It's called doubles. Ben Stoger named it doubles, right? Yeah. But essentially, you're shooting 2 shots with 1 sight picture. But that doesn't mean that I didn't process what happened in the second shot.
Yeah.
I just knew that my gun would be back in position, and I shoot. And what you see is the people who are processing, when they're processing that information fast enough, you see a follow-up shot at the same cadence, at the same split. Yeah. Because they saw what happened and they fired a third shot. Right?
The fastest I've seen shoot splits like that is a guy named Lesgar Murdoch years ago.
Yeah, Lesgar's a beast.
He's
Kristen
so
Seiler is fast as shit. The fastest, like we have in Alberta, Jeff Chang he's known for just fucking ripping off at like 10s and 12s and that sort of thing. And
Phil Reddy as well.
Phil Reddy's pretty speedy too, yeah. And a lot of that is just having everything set up right, knowing your equipment, knowing your grip, knowing how it's going to reset, and being able to just mash on that trigger as fast as possible.
Confidence as well.
Confidence, right? You know the gun's going to track up and track down, and it's going to reset right where it needs to. So there's no reason to second guess or think about shooting again.
Because
the gun is where it's supposed
memory.
to be. You shoot it. Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of confidence, I'm fairly confident my stock M&P 9 Gen 1 trigger probably isn't going to get me there, what you guys are talking about.
I don't know, man.
The doubles and triples.
No, you'd be surprised.
You'd be surprised. I think that's a valid note. You'd be surprised what Sean said is, and it's based on the division that you're in. Right.
Yeah, I'm
so
sure.
if you're in a division and there's limitations to the trigger weights or whatever like that, like you're playing everyone else in the division is playing the game with that same shitty gun that you are, right? So
No, yeah. If
so I got a shit gun. Is that what you're saying?
You know what I mean?
Fuck you guys.
Compared to Yosko's hand-built, pristine, diamond-plated, that compared. Let's call a spade a spade. It definitely is. It's
there's no question.
But when you show up to shoot production, you're shooting against other production guys. You're not shooting against the Tunas or the Cliff Kabelskis or the Phil Reddys or Matt Porth, right? You're shooting within your class, and that's why I made the joke. Overall doesn't count because really, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't. And so that kind of segues me into my next controversial topic here, Tuna. What's your opinion on PCC?
Oh, I like that stuff. I think it's fun, and I'll give you some backstory of it. So I started my career with 3-gun. You know what I mean? And I think it was like a good 2016, maybe 2016. I think I shot a full season of 3-gun, and I excelled at the rifle shooting. So to come back 5 years later and say like, oh, if there was an opportunity for me to shoot PCC, I think if you knew me in 3-gun, then you know now, even now, that like if I shot PCC, you'd probably be fucked in Canada. Like I'm just gonna be rude about it, right?
Yeah.
I shot a rifle really aggressively and really well in 3-gun. You know what I mean? And maybe that was from the previous sports that I played in my career, in life or whatever. But I shot it real well right off the bat. You know what it was? It was a pistol that I was bad at. And here I am, I'm supposed to be some hotshot pistol shooter, right? But I like PCC. It sucks having to reload it as much as you do in Canada.
Yeah.
It really fucks with the game. If you watch PCC in the U.S. or in other foreign countries, it's a different game. It's no different than going from
stick mags.
Well, it's no different going from IPSC Canadian Open Division to USPSA Open Division. They have a lot more flow. It's a lot more aggressive. You have to. There's no breaks in the visual. There's no breaks in the visual. You just keep transitioning. You keep moving. You keep pressing forward. You keep going on. In Canada, you're doing a thing, and then you have a visual break to your reload and back, and you get better at it. You get really good at it. And no bullshit, when I was down there, I nailed every fucking reload that I had, right? But it was one a stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So up here,
compared to here, it's 3 or 4 a stage.
Yeah, it's 3 or 4 a stage, right? So up here in PCC, you're really breaking the flow of the game of the rifle, especially when you have to, in certain situations when you move, you're going to dismount and it really fucks with the flow of the game. So I don't know. Like PCC is awesome. If I had more time, more resources, and we didn't have to reload every fucking 8 rounds in Canada, then I would probably shoot PCC, and I feel confident that I would do really well in it. So like I'm not one of those guys that's out there going PCC sucks. I like shooting PCC on a PCC or rifle on a pistol course. I think it's badass, right?
Well, 100%.
It's fun as hell. It's fun as hell, and that's why there's so much interest in it.
That's right. It's just another take on the game, and that's why like there was a huge when it came to Saskatchewan, there was a huge pushback against it from some of the old timers, let's call it, saying they purists. They shouldn't shoot the same course of fire that we're shooting. It's like, well, no,
fuck them. It's a different division, isn't it?
You're not competing against them.
So I'll give you a perspective on it. You still want to test the limitations of the gun. So that's
very true.
So there is some conversation topics about it. Is it fun? Yes, it's fun to shoot a fast rifle on a pistol course. But if we were to say like, look, we're going to have PCC in Canada, should it be its own match? Yes. It should be its own division. It should be not just its own division. It should be its own match discipline separate, so that people like you and me and Rooster, we can go shoot open division one weekend at an IPSC match, and we can also go to an IPSC PCC match and battle out there. And all of those people can go and do that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And we can take that gun out to 75 yards. We can take it out to plates at 50 yards, and inside of a pistol course. On top of that. Which if you put a 75-yard target out there, regardless of the fucking size, to half the people in Canada, they'd never hit the damn thing.
No.
It could be this, you could put a barn door up there and most of the people wouldn't hit it, It's
like 75 yards. Shit, I pissed that far.
Yeah, not with your M&P though. I'll tell you that.
You're lobbing those fuckers.
You know what? That thing's yet to be tested. All right.
So like my open division guns, I can shoot them out to 200 yards. I could probably hunt with them. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel confident killing a deer at 200 yards with a 9mm, but I could hit that motherfucker. You know?
Right. Well, you look at what they're doing with rimfire right now. Holy God.
That's really interesting. And I have never owned a rimfire rifle that would do any of that, honestly. Yeah. Like we have 3 10-22s in the safe, something like that. None of them are that capable.
Oh, you might be surprised.
Maybe it's the optic, eh? It's like what you're willing to spend on an optic and magnification to do it, or what?
Listen, Jens can attest that I have an old Marlin bolt gun with a peep sight in the on the goddamn thing, and I'm sure it's from the 60s or 70s. And we used to have about a what the hell was it, an 18-inch plate at 265 yards. And I'd hit that goddamn thing all day long with that fucking peep sight on that thing, just a regular old rifle. And you'd be surprised what you can do with the right ammunition with those things.
So in that right rimfire precision, like what is the accuracy expectation out there? Like, so you're shooting a target at 200 or 300 yards, but do you just have to hit a 10-inch gong or what? Is that
that's never really been that's not a focus of that precision rimfire circle. It's, they for most of the matches that I'm aware of, they go out to about 300 meters. There's definitely others that go beyond that, out to about 500 or something like that. But nobody ever talks about rimfire in like how they do about center fire, where your gun can hold X MOA to
that's what
X
I'm getting
distance.
at,
yeah, I know.
It's not a topic, eh? Yeah, okay.
It's not. And I think because you're limited to factory ammunition, you can't hand load. Well, you can hand load rimfire, but nobody does.
Never see people doing it. Yeah.
No, that's right. It's unlike center fire. It's kind of a badge of honor how well you can hand load, how well your rifle does at X distance. You're limited by what is available on the shelf for ammunition. So, so
that's one of the biggest issues that we notice, because we crony our ammo a lot. That's part of the process, right? And part of hitting that power factor, which is essentially the scoring ratios and stuff. So they have minor power factor, major power factor for pistol. So we crony all the time to see like where we fit in that spectrum, right? We cronied a whole bunch of rimfire ammunition. It's all over the fucking place. Like it's crazy. Yeah. Like it's madness. Like I use black sheep brass, which is essentially Camdex processed. It's roll size. It's sized, full length size, I should say. And like I'll go to a match and I'll crony within a few feet per second of each round, right? But we put out of a pistol nonetheless with a shot out barrel, right?
Yeah.
We put our rimfire over the crony and it's fucking all over the place. So you must have to buy some pretty high quality ammo, like to compare. Like we're using high quality black sheep brass, we're using high quality bullets, blah 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 to get to that, and we're just shooting inside 30 yards. So when you're taking this rimfire ammo out to 200 yards, like what ammo are you buying?
Well,
I know. Yeah,
Finish, Lapua, Ely.
Oh yeah, so name brand shit, eh? Not what you find at Canadian Tire.
No.
Okay.
You're not taking out a Federal blue box of bulk, whatever. You're not taking that to it. Well, you could if it runs good in your gun. Like
you got to step up to the I don't know what it is anymore, but what I've known, to the $17 to $22 per 50 box of rimfire ammunition.
Yeah.
You're not
compete. Killing chickens with that shit.
Not at all. No, sir.
Yeah.
Well, but then at the same point, Kurt hosted a rimfire sniper series based on the NRL Hunter series at Kurt's private range there. And a guy won it, or a team won it, with a Savage Mark II, a stock Savage Mark II bolt gun.
No shit, eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a big aspect of it. It still comes down to it, and I've heard a lot of people say it over the years, and I heard it said before I even fully was versed in the game, but shooting is shooting.
Yep.
So
That's absolutely.
like you can take your shit gun, you can still go out there and win a match. You
Yeah.
you can take sub quality ammunition, you can still go out there and you can win a match.
Right.
Yeah, friend of the
Oh,
show.
I see rimfire is just expensive dry fire. Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds like it. Yeah. Sounds like it.
Good old Jens. He's always there. He's always there for us.
Talking shit about rimfire when the rimfire
absolutely.
guy ain't even here, right?
Yeah.
Sorry. Vince.
Yeah.
Anyway, wow, we've killed an hour and 10 minutes. That's insane. We're doing so well. So
Let's keep
talk
rolling.
about-
Fuck.
What's your business called?
Control Tactical Apparel, but we are like that's just a piece of it, right? That's where we started. So essentially, we have training. I do essentially pistol and fundamental training. We do online social media expression, and we are essentially a brand ambassador and so on and so forth. So through the Control Tactical Apparel banner, I use it as an outlet for our sponsors and our partners, so we can represent Tetra Gun Care through that media platform, also represent our company and myself as an individual for all of that as a whole. So it gives them a larger outlet to express their interests on social media and multimedia. It'll be at YouTube. Like you can find us on YouTube at Tuna Control Tactical Media. I just actually put up the USPSA match footage from Nationals, a full match video. So it has everything but 2 stages that I missed on video altogether. But so you can watch the entire match and see how I did and the stages that I trashed and the stages that I did good on. But so we use that Control Tactical Apparel as just kind of like the starting point for it all. So we use it for our training, we use it for all our social media expression, and then all the partners and sponsors all flow through that to get their interests out to the world as well. So that's pretty much the idea of it.
What the hell? What are you talking about? Social media expression. I've heard the expression social media influencer and that.
Yeah, it's the same shit. Same shit.
Is that?
So
I see.
I don't know if I want to be called an influencer because my tits aren't big enough and I don't have a G-string, right?
Right.
So it's just us being out there and essentially
good.
expressing ourselves as individuals and saying like, this is who we are in the world and this is what we do and this is what we're up to and how our audience perceives that is up to them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I gotcha. Okay.
We have a fairly wide audience. It's not necessarily shooting related. But obviously, the primary group that we're catering towards is practical shooters. It's people in USPSA, it's people in IPSC in Canada and the US, and then we have a lot of people from overseas. But like, I do most of my training here in Alberta. Like, there's a big enough scene in Alberta that like I could train for 2 or 3 years, a few classes or a dozen classes a year, and still not even reach everybody that would want a class, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty often we're essentially turning people away. We get a lot of requests, and my wife has all access. And I'm going to give a full disclaimer to everybody that may message us or text us. My wife has full access to it. She will respond to you at times, and she's not saying like this is Tuna or Chelsea or Chachi or whatever. She'll respond because we get so many requests for training, we get so many requests for clothes and all of the other shit that we've got going on that we both have to access it at all times. Like maybe I'm flying to Calgary for work or for a match or whatever I'm doing. Like she's gonna be involved. So full disclaimer: sometimes you're talking to Chachi. So if you're sending dick pics or you're sending titty pics, that might be my wife, right? I'm just saying, right? Whatever they are, whichever side of the spectrum.
Hey, she signed up for it.
She signed the waiver.
But it allows us to represent more than just ourselves. We can represent all those sponsors through one platform, and it's kind of like a point of contact for everybody. So if you want to get a hold of Double Tap Sports or Black Sheep Brass, or you want to get a hold of Tetra Gun Care or FTP Alpha or FTP Shooting Sports and get an Alpha optic, you can contact me and find them. You can go through our pages and you can find them. Like if you want to get a gun coated, a lot of people are getting their gun coated because they saw one of my guns coated from Notch and Post Custom. Like they see my gun's coded from Notch and Post Custom. They message me. They're like, "What do you think of these guys?" I'm like, "Look at my fucking guns. Are they not badass?" And then they go to
they're
him,
no
right?
EM precision.
I'm pretty sure it's a different game. So, like yours is a lot longer than mine in the background there, and I've run into that before in the locker room.
If I had $1 for every time I heard that, man, fuck.
I got a quick story for you. So I went into a sports store yesterday because I was going to buy we lost our doe decoy for hunting, right? And we shot a little buck earlier this season, and we lost the decoy when we were hauling the buck out. So we were going to go out this weekend and shoot another buck during the rut, right? And so I stopped at the hunting store to pick up a new decoy. And there's a buddy of mine in there, and he's buying a knife, right? And the knife he's fucking buying is a fucking sword to me. Like, it's enormous, right? But he's got these fucking mitts, right? Like, he's got hands on him, right? So the handle of his fucking knife is double the length of the knife I keep in my pocket. Right. So he pulls out my knife and he's like, "What the fuck am I gonna do with that? Open a letter?" You know, like, so it's the same thing. We're in this sports store, cussing and joking, and moms are like shuffling their children by, and it was the same thing. It's like you're in the locker room, you're showering with your underwear on because you don't want anyone to know that you're shooting a pistol, not a rifle, right? So like,
oh shit! Just run what you brung, man.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's not the length of the barrel; it's the pressure of the.
How hard the hammer hits, right?
That's right. Yeah.
It's those Magnum primers. They're easier to get these days.
That's right.
Well, I got pretty lucky. Like people think it's coincidence and whatever, but like I live next to my range, and my club supports me, and they give me travel money, and I have 250 yards to travel to get to my range, but if you really want to talk about it, that's the Valley View District and Gun Club. It's not a coincidence. Like, you don't become one of the top shooters in your country, and maybe, I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm tooting a horn or something, but like one of the top 20 or 30 in North America, like, you're not going to get there by coincidence. You gotta go out there and you gotta fucking grind, right? So we have a property next to a gun range, and I'm there as often as possible, and I'm shooting and I'm working hard, and that's how we got to where we're at right now. Like, if you want to do it, you got to talk about, like we talk about balance. It's not about balance. It's about sacrifice. Right. It really is. So, and unfortunately, we've sacrificed some of our games based on our government. So like we don't have we don't have 3-gun anymore. In my opinion, it doesn't exist. And I'd like to think that there's groups out there like the CCFR. They're out there and they're working hard to keep our interests in mind, so that we have a future in the shooting sports. And anytime we can support those groups, I think we should. Honestly, I don't know where you guys stand on what group is the right group to support, but
all of them,
everyone you can.
You're right, all of them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I used to be the director for the CCFR in Saskatchewan here, and I was a member of all the organizations. I just volunteered for the one I thought was the best, but I financially support the CSSA and the NFA still to this day. So even with all the bullshit that's gone on.
Yeah, I've heard, like, as much as I'm connected, I'm super disconnected. Like, and I'm an old man. I'm an old man, right? So like we have our interests and we have our areas of focus, and that's really what we focus on. Like, my wife's not out there reading the fucking news, but we know what's going on in our circles, right? So I know there's a lot of infighting about that. I see Kyle Warner's on the podcast or on the comments, and he said the 3-gun is there. It's just massively different and more difficult to do the way we used to. Yeah, I'd love to comment on that if I could.
Go ahead.
Like, 3-gun is there, but it's not 3-gun. And the reason that I say that is, like, we came on here, I think even your header for the description was that IPSC as a sport. IPSC as a sport. So 3-gun as a sport. 3-gun will be a sport in Canada again when the top shooters are doing it. When the divisions are legitimate and the top shooters are doing it. And that's all simple. So if you don't have Jason Carver, if you don't have Jeff Barron, Tom Hess, Adam Glatt, Ryan Barsh, myself, if we're not there to be rude, then fuck all's going on. It's not competitive. It's just a fucking random game. It's just like league night bowling. It's like my mom and my dad used to go play fucking 5-pin bowling. That's what it is. Like, no bullshit.
You're not wrong.
Until the top competitors are playing a fucking sport, it's not a sport.
No, fuck me. You're right. Absolutely right.
You're right. No, you're not wrong.
I'm going to get hate mail from saying that.
No,
but that's the reality, right? Like
we don't get mail, period. Never mind hate
when
mail.
the ban happened, you go from, and like, it was awkward for me. And again, it's probably out of my place saying this. And again, I'll probably get more hate mail. But from going from arguably the top 3 in the sport in your fucking country to not having the sport the next day.
Right.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. And when we start having division like Plinkster and fucking pea shooter and shit like that, that's not legitimate. That's the reason.
That's an adjustment.
That's why I started shooting pistol to begin with. Yeah. I got into pistol because it was legitimate, because it was an international sport with a fucking governing body and rules. Rules that people don't like. People don't like rules until you're a competitor, until you get fucked over at a match you travel 14 hours to. That's when the rules fucking matter, because that guy didn't deserve to win, because that's when the rules matter, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're one of those guys, you're like, I think in my local 3-gun leagues, I'm probably disliked. Like, there's people that like me. I get that. But I never fit into those groups because I was overly competitive, and they probably didn't like that about me. But the idea is that level of competition is the reason that I went the direction that I went. Yep. So I went to IPSC, and IPSC is legitimate. And it as much as Alberta might be a smaller scene, it's still the big show in comparison. Like, you win, I think I won damn near every 3-gun match that I went to for a year or 2 years, right? And the idea is you win that match and you get your name on a fucking smoke pack. They write your name on the back of a fucking pizza box. Like, oh yeah, first place, Tuna. Can't read his last name. Like, no, like, we're out here trying, we're spending our money, and we're physically breaking down our bodies, athletes trying to be something better, trying to be a better athlete, trying to be a better person. And when you finally succeed and you get to the top of the fucking heap, and they're like, I don't really know what his name is, like, you get the fuck out of here. I'm going to go somewhere else. There I'm appreciated, and I feel like I accomplished something. Yeah. Right? So until we get back to that space, until we get back to that place in 3-gun where the top guys come there and grind, it's not effective for me. It's not what it maybe it's 3-gun, but it's not what it was. And that's what got me into it. Watching Keith Garcia shoot head-to-head shootouts in 3-gun Nation. Yeah. He said some shit about, I made $3,000 a second that night. That's what got me into this game in general. So when we started flopping around divisions and saying, well, we can't shoot this, or you're going to shoot a bolt action rifle, one shot this target, but this guy's going to shoot 2 at it. It's not legitimate anymore. It's not. There's no competitive equity. It's not legitimate anymore. So I appreciate those guys that are out there. Like, I know a really good example. Those Chaz guys, fucking best guys there is. The best guys there is. There's a few of them. I'm drawing a blank because I've had too much fucking whiskey. But like Chris Van Sickle, that fucking guy is one of the greatest guys I've ever met. I love that guy to death, and he's out there grinding, and they're putting on matches, and they're giving money to charity, and they're having a good time, and they're still out there shooting, regardless of what the government has done to affect the divisions in the sport. But it's not the same. It's not drawing me in yet. They haven't built the division that's going to say, get me back there to try and spend my money and possibly tear my fucking hamstring for them. You know what I mean? Like, they're not there yet, So
where are those guys gone? Like, have they just slunk back into the shadow and just not participating at all? Or have they adjusted to different things? Or what the fuck has happened?
Like, you're on both. Some of them have just backed off. Like, some of them
if we're not going to have this, fuck you, I'm not participating.
They moved on to IPSC. The majority of those top shooters, you got, some of them are up there. They're maybe not the top shooters, but they're up there. You got like Logan Martin. He shoots pistol now. He's a big influencer. He's an influencer, right? Oh, that's his game. Like, he's on Instagram. He's fucking showing his tits on Instagram all the time, right? But
Logan,
the idea-
sorry, Logan what? Logan.
I'll send you his email address after.
Okay.
But like, he's an individual too that was hardcore into multi-gun.
He was,
Super strong. Open division.
Right.
Mag-fed shotguns, the whole deal. Mag-fed shotguns, open division pistols, red dots, compensated ARs with fucking bipods and multi-sights on it. That game is gone for him. It fucking disappeared overnight.
That's right.
He went from an aspiring shooter to not having a game.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So what's he doing now? He's shooting carry optics, shoot production optics in IPSC.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Jason Carver, he took the year off, but he went from being probably the top pound for pound because of the division he shoots. Obviously, he's going to shoot open division. He shoots mag-fed shotguns like a badass. So, like, when him and I go head to head with each other, there's I used to shoot tac ops, so there was like this variance in like what the score should be. But open division, probably the top shooter in fucking Canada, Jason Carver. That division is gone for him. He went from that to taking like a few months break, if I remember correctly, to going into production optics, IPSC, and won provincials.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
and singing
guys,
karaoke at the local fucking bar.
Oh yeah, I remember just having a good laugh. Like people are like, three-gun shooters can't shoot pistols, right? Two shots anywhere on paper. And then we have people like Jason Carver going out to a fucking match.
Yeah, winning provincials.
Winning provincials just like that. Barely even showed up to any fucking qualifiers, came out, won provincials. No, everyone's like, who's this guy?
Shoving it up somebody's ass.
Three-gun shooter from way back, right?
Right.
Right. So the idea is these guys are still the top shooters in the country. They just lost their primary game and have to find a new way. So, and the new way is they went to IPSC. They did. And IPSC's in a transition period too. Like we've got a new section coordinator. We've got Jeff Arita. He's doing his shit. We have, we got inside Alberta, we've got some new people moving around, and we've got a couple of elections right now. And like there's some crazy shit going on in USPSA in the States too. There's a lot going on down there. They just lost their fucking president, and Ben Stoger's fucking jacking off on everybody all over the internet, right? So it's fucking nuts everywhere.
It was entertaining for sure.
I think it's all going to be a positive in the end. And the idea is that we found a sport, we found an outlet, we found a legitimate way to express ourselves in sport, and that's through IPSC and USPSA right now.
Well,
and
most of you anyway. I know a few guys who used to be big that just stopped shooting. They're like, well, if this is the way it's going to go, they're going to come for our pistols next. You know?
God, and that may be the case.
That's a shame.
That may be the case, and we've put a lot of thought into that, my wife and I. And if you're going to put enough effort into it, you're probably going to move. It's simple. You're going to move somewhere where that your sport is available to you. And if like in my situation, like I've got a established career, I can say maybe I can move to the U.S. and I can work in the oil and gas industry down there, and I can continue addressing the game and involving myself in the sport as I did before. But if they come for it, like you're taking away the reasons that we exist. You know, like this is what we live for. This is what we do. My whole family, we revolve around this sport, right? So, you don't want to allow them to have that much control over your life, but sometimes you have to be more reactive and just deal with it. You know, so
100%.
Hey, what's the difference between you're gonna probably fucking hate me for this question, but IPSC and PSA? Like I noticed when I was looking up shit tonight before the show, there's IPSC, there's also
USPSA, SPSA. That's the Saskatchewan Practical Shooters Association. They are the governing body for IPSC Saskatchewan, so they are affiliated with IPSC Canada, and they pay dues to IPSC Canada to be the IPSC club in Saskatchewan. Okay. That's what that is. Now, when he's talking about USPSA, you want to tell that story, Tuna?
Well, I'm glad you took that, because I fucking heard nothing of what you said, Rooster.
Oh, there you go.
So I have an idea. It sounded like a robot the whole time. So, but I think I caught on, like, what's the difference between IPSC and IPSC Alberta and USPSA? Is that correct?
Well, he said SPSA,
more or less.
But
yeah. So USPSA. To my knowledge, like, and again, I actually, not again, I haven't said this yet, I am not a strong follower of those details of the sport. I understand the shooting. You know, like, I'll give you an example. Have you ever seen the movie Thunder? Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder. It's a car
Yes.
racing movie. Tom Cruise, Robert Duvall. Do you know the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tom Cruise, Robert
So
Duvall
fast,
sitting in a
baby.
bar, and they're talking about like Robert Duvall is his racing coach, whatever the fuck you want to call it, his
Right.
big guy, whatever. And he says like, I need to know more about what's happening in the car. I need to know what's going on the track. And like a little shimmy here, a little shake there. Like, what are you feeling when you go in the corner? And Tom Cruise says, I don't know. They told me to get in the car and drive, and I could drive. So that's me. Like they told me, they gave me the gun. They shoot the gun. I could shoot the gun. So here I am, right? So everything else is extra to me.
Monkey
So
shoot. Yeah.
right. They told me to drive the car. I could drive the car, right? So the USPSA separated themselves from IPSC.
Yeah.
So they had a large membership. They weren't happy with the situation, to my knowledge. This is many years ago. And they separated themselves, created their own league. Yeah. So what they have to do is they have to essentially have their shooters to go to a world level event, shoot certain amount of matches and IPSC level matches and IPSC style matches to be able to send their shooters to USPSA or to a world level match. But their game is slightly different.
It is.
They have a slightly different style. They have a different flavor is the term usually. So it's not the same. So what they do is they'll have to have their people qualify at these two matches and then an IPSC level match, an IPSC nationals, etc. So I went down to the the US IPSC nationals in 2019, and like there was a lot of good shooters there because they're using that match to qualify for the world shooting. The U.S. shooters. So you still had the Christian Silers of the world, J.J. Ricazas, and all those fucking guys were there to qualify for the world shoot, but it was an IPSC level match. So I managed to get myself into the top 16 because I'm more used to shooting that kind of match, even though I wasn't as good as I am now. You know what I mean? But when we go to a USPSA style match, which I just came from, yeah, they're fucking good at playing their own game. I'll tell you that. Mm-hmm. It's no different than if you say the NFL players in the CFL. Yeah. Or the CFL players in the NFL. There was like, what, two of them? Like, what was it, Doug Flutie or something like that?
Sure, right,
like,
exactly.
One guy that one time, right?
Yeah.
So
how dare you, sir?
It's the same thing. You know what?
Reality, man.
I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
It was like that when I played paintball, too. When I play paintball, people are like, you're never going to play in the U.S. There's only like 20, 30 people in Canada that have ever played pro in the U.S. And then me and my buddy play pro in the U.S. Do you know what I mean? And it's the same thing. I had a buddy of mine years ago tell me that the people down in the U.S., they're on a different plane. He's not wrong. But that doesn't mean that I can't get onto that plane.
That's right.
Right. So he was never wrong. He was like,
absolutely.
They're just better than us. You're right. Yeah. They are better than us as a whole. But are they better than me? Maybe not. Right. Are they better than Matt? Maybe not. You know, so you put in the effort, you go down there, and, you know, if you can get into that top 30, top 20, top 10 mark, fuck yeah, good for you, right?
Did you ever watch that documentary about paintball, the spoof one with Rob Riggle and
Blackball? Fuck yeah,
Blackball?
buddy. That's good stuff. Yeah.
I'm going to start calling you
That's
Bobby
awesome.
Dukes.
Bobby Dukes. Yeah. No, I don't want to say like I had a like I did finish my career playing pro for a team called Seattle Thunder. So
there you go.
Yeah, in the MPPL. And then the year following that, the MPPL disbanded, and they essentially play PSP and NXL now. So it's all X-ball now. I know I'm on a completely different topic, but I did spend a good decade of my life playing paintball in Canada and the U.S. So I went from that to this. So I essentially took a lot of the mentality that I had and the training and that sort of thing, and what I didn't do in that game, and I took it to this game, and I said, like, look, what can I do better in this game that if I had done this back then, maybe I would have been better. Right? Yes. So like, I'm going to do it now. No fucking around. I'm going to do it now. So that's where we come back to like full circle. Like, I'm going to dry fire every fucking night. I'm going to work out. I'm going to cut weight. I'm going to this. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to try and.
A ton of weight. I remember that. You used to be a big fucking boy.
I still am, man. I go up and down like a fucking yo-yo. It's crazy, right? And I'm glad my sponsors still love me because they're like, he's fat, he's skinny, he's fat, he's skinny. Like, just back and forth. Like, who is this guy? Like, so, you know, it's really good for me to have less weight on my body. I can move a lot more efficiency.
That's everybody, man.
Well, and longevity too.
Yeah, longevity, right. And what I found was I was injuring myself a lot. I have two completely fucking blown out knees. That's one specific thing about me that like I have knee braces on both knees when I compete. And people that don't know that, like I have ACL, MCL problems in one knee, MCL problems in the other knee. People don't necessarily know that. So like I mentioned Chris Van Sickle. I hope I'm saying his name right.
Yeah.
I took my knee braces off after like a BC 3-gun championships one time, and he was just blown away. He was like, man, if everybody knew that you were out there doing this, like, I'm not sure if he realized that he was like dissing me or not, but he's like, man, if you can do it, anybody can do it. Like,
thanks for your support, Jack.
Shit, man, right? Yeah, but he was trying to make a point. Like, if you're out here with two blown out fucking knees, overweight, middle-aged dude with two fucking kids, what's the problem with all these other people making excuses?
Why?
Right?
Exactly, right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like, it came up recently. It's just like, I've never not felt like I was an underdog.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've never not felt that. You know, it's the same thing. Two blown out
but
knees,
you have enough of that.
Kids, fucking full-time job. And this 20-year-old kid, up-and-comer, he, you know, people are like, oh, he's going to beat you. He fucking should be beating me. Yeah. He should be. Right. Like Christian Seiler, he should be beating me. He's got everything going for him. He's fit, he's young, he's an athlete. He's you know, like, he has his parental support. You know what I mean? Like, he's got everything going for him. He's got good sponsors. Like, if that guy's not beating me, like, I am the underdog. Fuck him,
right?
You know, right? Like,
that's the same kind of thing when I was pitching. Same kind of thing when I was pitching. Is like that fuck you center of my brain was fucking huge. Yes. So, you know, like anybody I came up against, whether I was the best or not, whether I was throwing against the shittiest fucking batter in North America or the top batter in North America, that's like, fuck you, I'm going to shove it up your ass. Yeah. And
you have to have that mentality.
Absolutely.
It's kill or be killed. It's eat or eat, right? You know what I mean?
Amen, brother. Like absolutely.
Yeah, or eat, right? Or there is no other, you know.
Nom.
Never want to be on the eating side, right?
That's right.
So,
right. Throw a little salt on that prick. Let's go.
Come back to that. Those guys, they're on a different plane. They're fucking on a different plane. Yeah, they are. And he's I think he's shit. Like, he's like 19 or 20, maybe 21. I think he's 21.
Oh my God.
I got to watch him shoot. One of the really interesting things about it is, like, it's such a finite amount at that level, you know, like
the difference. Yeah.
You might run a stage where he gets somebody like JJ or somebody gets you by 3 seconds, but then you go to another stage and you get him by 2 or 3 seconds. Right. So it kind of goes back and forth. So you have to really look at it analytically over the course of an entire fucking match.
Yeah.
Be like, he shot 20 seconds or 15 seconds or 10 seconds faster than me at that match. And it was because of all of these things. But really, when you watch a lot of them shoot, when you get to a certain level, it's not that much fucking different. The big difference for me is that they're younger, they're more athletic, like, and it's the same thing in Alberta, like Jeff Chang and Matt Porth. Matt Porth's old as fuck too, and he has blown out knees as well. But like, he takes one step to every 5 of mine. You know what I mean? So like, there's a big difference, and you see the athleticism between some of these guys in the sport, right? But even watching the top guys shoot, like Casey Eusebio and JJ and all those guys, right? Like, it's incremental differences. They're transitioning to each target just 1/10 faster than you, or 1/100th faster than you. And that all adds up over the course of a fucking stage and then over the match, right? Like, Eddie Garcia beat me, and he's an absolute legend, and I love the guy, and I appreciate him on an ultimate level, but he beat me by like 2 fucking points. You know what I mean? 2 points is one trigger pull in an IPSC match.
You know what I mean? Though? There's wisdom also comes into play and shit like that.
Yes.
You know, like 100%. There's that fucking idea that, okay, there's that young stud that can lift or run or whatever the fuck, but is he doing it smart? Fuck you. I've got years of experience here that tells me this is the better way to do things. Slow is fast, all that kind of shit, right? Yep.
I got lucky going down there because I got squatted up with Mike Wang and Ethan Howell, and they both took like a top 15, top 10 kind of placing. And that's really important for me. Like, I didn't know those guys going down there. Like, obviously we're friends coming out of the match.
Yeah.
But you have somebody to gauge. Like, it's very difficult to to understand the time expectation. Like it's the perception of the speed as you're going through. It's very difficult.
God.
It's very difficult to gauge that, even in precision
in
rifle.
competition.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So being down there with Ethan and Mike, which I think Mike took like 12th or something. I'm probably getting it wrong, and Ethan took a top 10 or something like that. It was very beneficial for me to have that with me down there and say, like, look, I just ran this stage to par, like on time, or I didn't, So like if I'm beating those guys, like I think I had a dozen stages that were all in the top 30, which is solid, right? You have that 85% mark and up, right?
Man.
Yeah, and then a handful that were in the top 10. But like if you go in there and you beat one of those two guys, and then you're like, okay, so that was to par. And then you go to the next stage and they beat you and you're like, you're way off the mark from where they were. You're like, well, that was not sufficient at all. Whereas if you don't get that, especially with my experience level, you don't get that direct comparison. It makes it very difficult to determine, like, am I even doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now?
Right.
So I got
We're doing this
lucky.
Again. Let's go.
I got really lucky with that. Like Mike Huang and Ethan Howell, they took a good placing in the match, and they're the top 15 shooters in the fucking North America. Those two guys, and I really appreciate them being there. So if they're watching or whatever, they tune in. I want to say thanks to those guys. So
there you go. Wow, that was awesome.
Holy smokes!
We're holding on, going a little late. Yeah, we're still going here, but. Right on. Well, so we talked about IPSC. We talked about the Control Tactical. What am I missing, Cory?
Well, let me just shout out to some of these fucking sponsors and shit like that.
Yeah,
like,
give her, man.
Double Tap Sports. Everyone wants to know about the gear. Like, I get all my fucking gear through them. Like, I get 90% of my reloading supplies through them.
Well, and I'm just checking it out right now. He's
through who now?
Sorry, Double Tap.
Double Tap. Okay, good.
And he's got the dry fire setups here, like the cardboard cutouts are $28.99 for a set.
Yeah,
that's cheap.
They deal anything IPSC related, just about. So they're the Ghost distributor. They got Double Alpha. They got everything. Chile Custom Gun Works. They're the dealer for that, and he uses all the Chile Custom Gun Works parts in his custom builds as well. Dawson, you fucking name it, right?
Blade Tech.
Yeah. So a big one for them is just like, if you need something IPSC related, they have it available to them. And the difference, the separator from Double Tap Sports to everyone else is the customer service. And that's MAV. If you don't know MAV, you need to get your shit together. So when you put an order in, don't just always put it in online. If you need something specific and you're not sure if you can get it or whatever, you call, you talk to MAV, you tell them Tuna sent you, and she'll hook you up. You know what I mean? She's fantastic. Her and Yasko have essentially changed my life and the direction of my career. If I didn't have that kind of support from them, I would not be there. Obviously, they're the indirect relation to Zero Bullets because they were the distributor for Zero Bullets. And in 2020, if I didn't have Zero Bullets, I wouldn't have been able to compete.
Right.
Yeah.
And on top of it, they're the best bullets you can buy. Like, they're the most accurate bullets I've ever tested.
Wow.
And on top of that, Double Tap Sports is the distributor for Toro bullets. So like that makes a big difference. So like a shooter like me, if you want to be on a certain level, you want to be on a certain plane, you either have to have the finances to pay for it all yourself, or you need someone to help support you. And I don't have the finances. We just don't have that, right? So we have the support that we need. We got Toro bullets, we got Zero bullets, we got Double Tap Sports, the belts, the holsters, the mag pouches, the bags, absolutely, you name it. Mags, the gun builds. The gun builds are phenomenal. Like, there's a joke around. It's mostly Western Canada, I think, because I know most of those guys, like, personally, on a personal level. But they call those guns, they call them tuna specials, and that's essentially they call like the sandwich, right? That's essentially Yasko's build. Like, that's his style of build. So if you go to Infinity, their builds are very unique and everything, but they look like an Infinity, right?
Yeah.
If you go to EMG Customs, like Eddie's guns are all unique. They look like Eddie's guns. Akai, same thing. Well, Double Tap's guns, the DTS builds, Yasko's builds, they're his builds. They look like his builds.
Right.
But because I'm known for shooting them and I've had success shooting them, and I've fucking won a bunch of shit. I've won this provincials and that provincials match and that provincials match, and took a top 5 here and a top 20 there and all that jazz. With his guns, people are like, oh, I want what Tuna's shooting. Well, that's the Tuna special, right?
Yeah.
So, and I don't think he calls it that, but people know about
That's $6.95 today on Wednesdays.
So, and he can do a lot of stuff. All right, like he can do your standard builds, he can do your open builds, he can do it all, right?
Yeah,
and then
hear
they have
that, you
everything
sons
else
of
available.
bitches? Mav. Just
Mav.
call for Mav. Ask for the tuna special.
And then obviously, like I have Black Sheep Brass, like they've been a huge supporter of me right from the get-go. I spent time with
Brian
them in
is a
Quebec.
legend, man.
Brian is a fucking absolute badass, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he was out blowing shit up before he ever started Black Sheep Brass. So he's a pretty badass dude, right? So he's a legitimate badass. So like if you're ever dealing with Brian, and they have a bunch of distributors, and if you go to my site, you can figure out who the distributors are. Like I think it's Wolverine Supplies and some other guys, right? So and then Notch and Post Customs, they code all the double tap guns that I get. They code everything. They can do Cerakote and Duracode and all that sort of jazz. FTP Shooting Sports with the Alpha 3. 2 years with an Alpha 3. I put, I think, something like 120,000 rounds through two Alpha 3s before I ever had one issue.
So do you have it mounted right on top of the ejection port, or do you have it
So
over to the side?
No, mine are frame mounted on an open gun. So they're on a DTS mount. There's a double tap sports mount. They're on a DTS mount attached to the frame, sitting up vertically above the ejection port, right? So, and they're a miniature mount. They're a miniature dot. So they're a reflex red dot optic. So they're not like a Seymour that you have canted to the side, right? Yeah. And they're fantastic. They have a really big window that's kind of has a really tall vertical shape like this. And I use like an 8MOA dot on them, and they've been fantastic. And the real kicker behind them is the dot brightness, mechanical, all that shit aside, is that they have a better price point than any of the competitors.
Okay.
They're right there with everybody else, but they're cheaper because it's a small distributor. He's getting it manufactured. He's only selling a few of them, so he's not selling them for like $800-900 a piece.
No.
Right? So you can buy one at a reasonable price, get into the game, or compete. Again, you can compete at a high level with them, and I'm proof to say that, right? You
Which
can
is that,
compete
Cory?
at a high level with them. That's the FTP Shooting Sports, Fast Toys. So FTP Shooting Sports, Alpha 3 Reflex Red Dot Optic. I actually have a review on my YouTube channel, so that's Tuna at Control Tactical Media on YouTube. If you go there and check it out, like and subscribe, and all that jazz. But it's a fantastic fucking red dot. Like I used to use a Seymour RTS2, and I will not go back to that. They could. And I know there's a lot of people out there using them. But they could say, "Hey, Tuna, we're going to give you 5 of them. We're going to give you 2 of them. We're going to give you a bunch of them." I would really fucking hesitate to do it. Honestly.
Really?
Just because of the issues that I had with them, the dimness of the dot, the price point, and then the comparison to going to the FTP, it was such a big change. Like they're right there with the Sig Romeo 3s, the Maxes. Like they're right there with them. And people don't know that. People aren't aware of that because they're such a small vendor, small distributor. Like they're not Sig, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're out there and you're looking for an optic that's right up there, at the top of the line, that you can compete at the top level with it, you can go with the Alpha 3. So if you need any help with that, you can get that. You can use my promo Tuna21 and all cap locks too, and that'll help you get some more money off, right? And then obviously, like my club is huge. My club supports me like you wouldn't believe. They give me essentially, like I travel anywhere from 6 to 12 hours to a match. It's very rare that I have a local club match in my area. Yeah. So we take the Friday off. We take this is the dedication. We take the Friday off. So I use my holidays. I take a Friday off. My wife and my kids and I, we travel to a match. We drive 12 hours to a fucking match, 10 hours to a match. We shoot the match Saturday, Sunday, right? Sunday night, the match ends at 6 o'clock. You go there, you get your awards, you get a pat on the back, you get your name on a fucking pizza box, right?
Right.
And then we drive home, my wife and I, we drive home all the way through the night, 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever the fuck it is, right? And then I get to work, or I get to home at fucking 3, 4 in the morning. I shower, I get my work truck, I go to work.
Yeah.
We do that every other weekend, and that's what we do, you know? Jesus so we use that Friday holiday as a travel day so that I can get there in time to walk stages. You know what I mean? No bullshit.
Yeah. I believe
and I can have a decent meal, so I don't have to eat fast food because I'm a piece of shit. And I can get to bed. I can get to bed at a decent time because I'm an old man. And then, but when the match is over, We drive all the way home. We just saddle up. We drive all the way home. We drive whatever it is. 6 to 12 hours is pretty much the standard for us in Alberta. We're just off the beaten path. You know, there's a few matches in the Grand Prairie region, hit and miss, but it's not very often. So when we started shooting IPSC, it was like, okay, we need a supporter that's going to help us with travel funds. So Tetra Gun Care has helped me with the funds to go to USPSA Nationals in Alabama.
Sweet.
Right. And all the cleaning supplies, all the maintenance, Tetra Gun Care, like gun vices, everything like that. They're fantastic, right? Nice. You soon to be able to get them through Double Tap Sports. You can get them through Brunel's. But my club, Valley View and District Gun Club, like they have supported me from the get-go. Like I primarily practice there. They're 250 yards away. They have like a provincial level silhouette range, but they're not a pistol club. Like they don't have any bays. So you're very limited to what you can do there for someone like myself. But you know what? I do what I can with it. They support me, and they're right next door. And I couldn't say thank you to those guys anymore. You know what I mean? So,
yep.
But I'm sure you guys are getting tired of hearing me yak on.
No, man,
not at all, man. Seriously, holy fuck!
Sure. We just sit back and just let you go.
But we're gonna have some more. You can look out on my page, and you can watch out on Instagram. You can see me at Tuna, aka Cory Laurenson, on Facebook. And we'll probably have some more pistol classes this winter, like a warm up, that sort of thing, right? Do some fundamental stuff. I'm trying to work out some indoor venues. It's tough to have an indoor venue because they essentially have to close down for the day, or you have to do it after hours, which makes it difficult.
Right.
So
yeah.
So, and I'm sure some of my people that have taken my class will chime in on this eventually. Leave a comment saying whether or not I was full of shit. So, but. I think a lot of people have a really aha moment when they take a class from me. So, and I even just some of the higher level, let alone the middle classmen, some of the higher level people have taken a class from me or taken advice from me and just been like, oh, really? I didn't really think of that. And then they go and try it. And
well, I think that's the essential part of things, whether it's pistol or shotgun or precision rifle. If you can find an aha moment with something in your system, how you're doing stuff, it changes the entire game for what you're doing.
Yeah, like it's worth the money you paid. Like at my level, if I go to a JJ Rakaza class or something like that, and he gives me one aha moment for whatever amount that I spent to him, like it was worth it.
It's worth every penny. Yep.
Right? It's like these incremental things. If I can go up 1% in the grand scheme of things, that would have put me 2 or 3 places ahead of where I was at a national level match. Yep. And it was worth the $2,000 or $5,000 or $300 that I spent to do it, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think you get a lot of that. And I really focus on the fundamentals. Like we break down a lot of trainer bias. Essentially, like this trainer uses, we talked about it already. This trainer uses this as a hook and this is his focus. This trainer uses this as a hook and this is his focus. But what I've identified, you know, just taking information from YouTube and this or that, or directly from his mouth, is that they're both doing the same thing. You know, like they're both doing that. Like this guy says that clamping pressure is the key, and this guy says that forward and front strap and rear strap pressure is the key. Well, the reality is that this guy,
same fucking thing.
He's not doing it without using the other guy's technique at the same time.
Right.
So let's take all of the aspects of it and put it together and see if we can improve your grip and improve your trigger press and get you understanding what it means to track your sights properly. So like, look for that going forward. We can. Just reach out to me, send me an instant message or a direct message or whatever it is on the platform that you're using. And I really appreciate you guys having me on here. I probably drank too much whiskey. I think I drank too much. I'm pretty sure I drank too much whiskey. But
you know what? This is going to cost you. I don't know if we actually effectively took you through that at the beginning of this, but this is going to cost you.
I got to pay you for this or what?
Yeah.
Well, fuck me. Thumbs overlapping, pointed forward. Thumbs overlapping, pointed forward.
Okay, excellent. Jesus okay. Christ.
Support hand pressure, man. Support hand pressure.
All right.
No, it's all good. Fuck. This has been awesome. This has been fucking crazy good.
I appreciate you guys having me. I hope everyone enjoys the podcast and that people actually tune in and listen. We're not done yet?
No, we got a little bit to go yet. So, Before we move on, I wanted to give a picture up to Phil Odell from Odell Engineering.
Yes.
He is the genius behind the Canuck line of firearms. Odell Engineering is your premium importer and distributor of some of Canada's top brands of firearms, including Bergera, Rock Island Armory, Mission First Tactical, Hyperfire, and of course the Made for Canada Canuck firearms. Find their products in a dealer carrying said products at www.odellengineeringltd.com. On Facebook at Odell Engineering Ltd, or walk to your local gun store and tell them Phil sent ya.
Oh, jeez.
Easy, man. God, he got so excited over Canuck firearms.
The old studio's falling apart here.
It's the whiskey, I'm telling you. Jameson will do that to you.
Okay, and one last thing with scoutvid.com. Scoutvid is an interactive platform for youth of all ages to showcase their talent. From profiles to highlight reels, we put you front and center in the hockey world. Whether you're just getting into hockey or looking to make an impression on a junior club, ScoutVid gets you the tools to get noticed. Welcome to the show. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and their new website at scoutvid.com.
Betcha.
There
we go. Well, Cory, we appreciate you coming on.
That
if
was
somebody
an amazing
wants?
show.
Yeah, we're
That
2
was
hours.
awesome.
This is awesome. If somebody wants to contact you, you said send you a message, but where are you on the socials?
So you can get us on our primary platform is obviously Instagram. That's the most popular one right now. So you can get us at Control Tactical Apparel on Instagram. So search that up, Control Tactical Apparel, all one word. You can get us on YouTube at Tuna Control Tactical Media. Watch my Nationals match video. And you know what? You can reach out to me on Facebook too. It's our personal page. It's Tuna, aka Cory Laurenson. So just go ahead and check out any of those, and you can reach out to me through those platforms.
There you go. Awesome. Well, at the same time, shameless plug for our show. If you haven't already, go to Facebook and throw us a like. Leave a review on wherever you get your media. Let us know how we're doing. You guys don't like to review us. We don't have any new ones.
You guys suck. You don't like to hear or see me cry on air.
Or if we do suck, tell us we suck in the reviews. And
yeah,
because right now I just assume you guys love us. So anyway,
just engage for Christ's sake.
That's right. Don't just
it's really important to get that, especially on like the Apple iTunes platform. Like, leave a review for these guys, give them a rating. Even if it's bad, it helps them in the spectrum. And I don't think people know that, right? Like, you could put a bunch of like eggplant emojis and water spots in there, and it helps. It moves them up in the spectrum.
Kurt will get excited. And
I shared the Facebook page a bunch of times, so we should see some increase in that, and I'll do that again a couple times after, and see if we can get some more people following the page on a regular. But I listened to a couple, and they were fantastic. I was actually quite surprised because I listened to a few a while back, but I didn't listen to for quite a while, and I listened to a few recently just before you and I talked, and then I listened to the Cliff Kolbeski one, and that was actually quite good. You can't shut him up either. Like, I've shot a match with him, and he will not stop fucking talking either. So right. I really enjoyed that podcast.
He has a habit of calling me at 5 a.m.
He's a fucking great guy.
Yeah, he is.
You know what? I'm gonna say he's a great guy.
Yeah.
The whole time that he's calling Sean at 3:00 in the morning, that's fucking awesome.
No, 5. There's a difference.
5, whatever.
He's one of those guys that you can outright call a piece of shit, and everybody laughs about it because they know he's a solid dude. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and they probably all agree anyways, but
probably.
I love him. He's a good dude. And his son, Noah, is a great shooter too. So he's an up-and-comer. If he keeps at it, I can see him really putting pressure on national champions at some point here. To be honest. So, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
No problem. Well, before we go, I just want to give a massive thank you to all our sponsors. Without you, we wouldn't have this show in the first place.
Amen, brother.
So Shane and Steve, EM Precision Rifles, Miles, Carey, Cappy, call sign 66, Duncan and Rob, Bolt Action Coffee, Phil Odell, Odell Engineering, Doug and Niza, March Scopes Canada, the unsung heroes of this shooting season, and Warren at ScoutFit. Thank you guys. We love you all. Thanks for an immeasurable amount. And we'll see you next week. Guess I should get the outro prep. There we go.
Bueno.
Thanks, buddy. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Cory,
Thanks.
don't go anywhere.
Okay.